Welcome to Fleet Scrap. Gameplay. This video will go through a sample of gameplay between two players. Each player gets 3 cards from each deck and 3 dice. 1 die will be for rolling deployment, while the 2 matching dice are for salvo. The single die is normally rolled during every deployment phase. However, for the first round of the game, everyone deploys with a value of 6. Since the first round's deployment value is 6, any operation card played will reference the value of 6. Both players deploy up to 6 defense worth of ships. The cards are laid out in front of the player, forming the fleet. Player 1 had 3 ships totaling 5 defense, so they all get deployed. Player 2 had 2 ships with 5 defense, but chose the one with the higher attack value. Once all fleets are in play, anyone who wishes to play a deployment operation should do so. Player 2 has harmonic modulation, but it would not help at this time. To start every salvo phase, roll the 2 matching dice. Compare the dice to the ship tactics to see if anything gets activated. For Player 1, the roll of 3 activates the gunboat's assault, adding 3 to the total salvo. Neither of Player 2's dice activated any tactics. Adding the attack values of the ships plus tactics gets a total of 8 for Player 1. Player 2 has a total of 9 by adding the attack value. Player 2 has advantage with the higher salvo total, so will get to attack first. Comparing both salvo totals, 9 versus 8, gives a difference of 1. The difference is how much damage may be applied to the opposing fleet. Unfortunately, this means that only the scout could be taken out with salvo. An alternative to salvo is raiding, where the player does 1 damage per ship in fleet. Player 2 only has 2 ships in fleet, so this would be 2 damage, a slight improvement. However, Player 1 has an interceptor with the blockade tactic, which hinders raids. Therefore, the blockade would reduce the 2 raid points to just 1. Either way, the scout ship is scrapped and slid up a bit. The ship is still in play until the end of the round. Player 1's salvo is less than Player 2's, so there is no chance for salvo damage. Therefore, Player 1 must rely on a raid damage of 3, 1 for each ship in fleet. 3 damage is not enough to scrap the Dreadnought, so the Vandal is targeted. Player 2 could have reduced Player 1's salvo with the EMP operation, but decided to hold it and hope for a better dice roll later. Neither player has a conclusion card they would like to play. Scrapped ships are exchanged, starting the scrap pile for each player. Both players now draw to a full hand of 3 ships and 3 operations. The player with advantage that round always draws first. Player 1 drew 3 small ships, so decided to discard 1 and draw another. Players may only exchange 1 card after drawing to a full hand, if desired. On the second round, both players roll for deployment. The higher die roll determines how much defense all players will use to deploy. Since Player 1's roll is higher, both players would normally deploy at 6. However, Player 1 also has a blockade tactic, so Player 2 will deploy at 5. Player 1 deploys the 6 defense, but since the scrap heap has the Baze tactic, 1 extra reserve ship may also be deployed for free. Player 2 now takes the opportunity to play harmonic modulation in order to deploy at 8 and ignore blockades. For tactics, Player 1's roll of 6 does not help, but the 2 activates the scrap heap's logistics. Player 1 will use the logistics to activate the gunboat's tactics. Player 2's roll of 6 activates the Dreadnought's lethal tactic, while the 5 activates both the battleship squadron tactic and the Marauder's lethal tactic. Player 1 adds up all of the attack values for a total of 10. However, since the gunboat's assault was activated via logistics, the bonus of 3 makes the salvo total 13. Player 2 adds the attack values of each ship for a total of 16, but then adds the squadron tactic value of 5 for a salvo total of 21. Player 2 will also take this opportunity to play EMP. This reduces Player 1's total salvo by Player 2's higher die roll of 6, lowering it from 13 to 7. With a difference of 14, this will take out all of Player 1's fleet, which has a total defense of 12. All of Player 1's reserve ships were protected by the Scrap Heaps Bays tactic, but Player 2 had activated the lethal tactic on 2 ships, so the whole fleet is scrapped. Player 1 can only raid for 5 points and decides to target the battleship since its squadron tactic gives the battleship a potential 10 attack when activated. Player 2 collects the scrap of Player 1's fleet, but then plays the brace for impact operation to save the battleship. Since Player 2 has played all the operations in hand this round, Player 1 takes the opportunity to play the scramble operation, preventing Player 2 from drawing any operations this round. Player 2 had advantage this round, so draws to full hand first without operations. After drawing 2 patrol ships, Player 2 decides to discard 1 and draw a new ship. Since Player 1 has no fleet remaining, an extra ship is drawn this round. Player 1 also decides to discard the sacrifice operation to draw a new card. On the third round, both players roll a 3, so the deployment will be 4. This is because the highest roll is 3, but one other player matched it. Player 2 will deploy at the 4 value, but since Player 1 has no fleet, Player 1 will deploy equal to the current defense of Player 2's fleet. Therefore, Player 1 adds 4 defense worth of ships while Player 1 deploys with 13. However, since Player 1 deployed a carrier, the Vandal gets deployed for free. Player 1 now plays the Ion Beam card to disable Player 2's battleship. This prevents the battleship's numbers and tactics from being counted this round. For tactics, Player 1 has activated tactics on 2 ships with a roll of 3. The Subterfuge subtracts 3 from Player 2's salvo, and the Vandal's Assault adds 3 to Player 1's total. Player 1's salvo totals 18 with the Assault bonus. Player 2's salvo totals 14 with the Subterfuge penalty. This would result in 4 salvo damage that Player 1 could apply. However, Player 2 activated Bulwark for 2 points, so only the Raider is scrapped. Player 2 is able to apply 4 points of raid damage, but Player 1's blockade reduces it by 2 points. The only ship that can be scrapped is the Vandal. During conclusion, the Ion Beam is discarded and scrap is exchanged. This brings the scrap pile count to 3 for Player 1 and 14 for Player 2. Play continues in this manner until one of the players acquires a scrap pile of at least 30 points. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to learn more about fleet scrap, check out the other videos available on this channel and see links in the description below.